In 5 minutes, Donald Trump will be interviewed by Elon Musk in a conversation on Twitter X Spaces. We will have that live here on Timcast IRL with commentary and criticism, though I think we're going to do a lot of listening to understand Donald Trump's positions right now with Elon Musk, as they've both, well, Donald Trump has praised Elon Musk. Elon Musk, of course, has been speaking out quite a bit about what's going on in the UK and free speech. This is huge. Donald Trump has returned to X, formerly was Twitter, and already, as we are waiting in the placeholder for Donald Trump's interview on Spaces, it's crashed. I think we're already looking at over 700,000 people have tried to view the space. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull this off, but it's going to be very interesting. Now, there's big news around this. In the EU, they're threatening Elon Musk because he dared to say he will interview Donald Trump. And they're saying, hey, don't forget we got laws and hate speech and you're under investigation. The Guardian published an article by a Twitter exec saying, arrest, issue a warrant for Elon Musk's arrest. They are losing their minds. We'll talk about that. Plus, Donald Trump's campaign HQ in Virginia burglarized. This is breaking news just only about an hour or so ago. We'll pull that one up. And then we got the stolen valor scandal, which is just getting crazier. A Minnesota government website actually showing a statement from Tim Walz. They say is his words, where he claims to have been in the National Guard and was in Bagram. And it's all manipulation. We'll break that down. Before we get started, my friends, head over to mypillow.com/Tim. Use promo code Tim. Buy Pillow. Support the show. Support Mike Lindell. You guys know him, Mike Lindell. He got canceled because he was challenging the election, but he's here to sponsor Timcast IRL tonight. And they say you've asked and they've listened. They're finally bringing you the most requested offer ever, the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position, keeping your neck aligned, holding its shape all night long. Don't forget to throw it in the dryer, my friends. I use one of these and it is perfect. I love it. That's not all. You can get their 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets for $25, brand new mattress topper, $69.98, and their famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 or more. Go to mypillow.com/Tim. Use promo code Tim and pick up the things you need. Pillows, towels, slippers. They got great slippers, by the way. And we're big fans of Mike, and he's a good dude. We appreciate that he sponsored the show. You can go to mypillow.com/Tim. Don't forget, there's also a phone number, 1-800-925-9096. Also go to timcast.com, click join us. Depending on the length of the conversation with Donald Trump and Elon, we may not have a members only show for you tonight. We start a little bit early so that we have some room before that interview starts. But go to timcast.com, click join us to support the show. If you believe in what we do, get access to the Discord. And depending on how the interview with Trump goes, we may have that members only show for you tonight. But again, we're just winging it tonight. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and maybe just comment on this interview is Mark Ivanyo.
Hey, Tim, pleasure to be here.
Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm the executive director of Republicans for National Renewal, which is a political nonprofit organization essentially promoting the America First agenda, which was brought into the political sphere by President Trump, as your audience knows, in 2016. And so we want to basically renew the Republican Party from the grassroots level up. So at the local, state, and federal level, so that when President Trump is back in office, he has a network and infrastructure within the party to effectuate his agenda, instead of not only having to deal with the radical left, which he has to, but also not being stabbed in the back by members of his own party. We want to change that. We think that's unacceptable. And so to get more of the America First national populist candidates into office is our mission.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out. Carter Banks is hanging out.
What's up, guys? Carter here. Everything Timcast Music and Trash House. Pumped to be here. What's up, Hannah Clear?
Hey, I'm happy to have you both here tonight. I'm excited to see if this X Spaces works. It's already making me nervous. I'm Hannah Claire Brummel. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Let's get started.
I'm going to unmute this. And this is all we can hear right now. So you want to pull this up, Serge? The Spaces seems to be crashing already. So I'm really excited for this. What you're hearing now is Trump's placeholder music, which is fun. And the thing is, because this isn't a live video stream at Spaces, normally what we do is we'll just have the video playing with it muted, and then once we see the video start, we can be like, okay, hey, it's starting. If I mute this, Trump could start speaking at any minute, and we have no idea. So I have a feeling they're probably going to be late. So, but this is historic.
Yeah.
Their description here is the big. Actually, let me just pull up the Team Trump Twitter post. Are we going to get it right here? This is the biggest interview in history, and now we're asking you to make President Trump's biggest fundraising day ever. Before the interview is over, we're calling on 10 million patriots to donate any amount and proudly say, I stand with Donald Trump. Well, I donated the maximum already. So I don't know about anybody else. I'm not telling anybody else to do anything. That's what they're saying.
Well, that's pretty genius, but has anyone ever known Trump to be on time for any of his rallies?
Right.
No, I think
Sir,
he's
do you wanna-
typically late.
Put the volume down on this one just a little bit, and then, because I can't control volume like we normally do, but if we hear Trump start talking, we'll bring it back up.
I'm surprised this is the music choice. I thought
I love it.
I
say,
disagree
I do.
profoundly,
I really like
but I
it.
already made my
like
case
it.
so
It's
many.
very relaxing. It makes you want to wait.
You know, the thing is, the last time I
lower
remember
a little
this
bit
kind
more.
of significant moment on Spaces
Oh,
was
is that
when DeSantis announced. And, you know, if you guys remember, that Spaces didn't go smoothly. It crashed 3 or 4 times. I think they had to relaunch it at one point. And so it does make me a little bit nervous. Not that I'm rooting against you, Elon, obviously. Good luck with everything. I'm just kind of a boomer and sort of technophobic. So the fact that this is going to be so massive, and I don't know if the infrastructure is there, you know, if it crashes, you're going to see all these left-wing media headlines that are like, everything they do fails. It's going to be so overdramatic.
We're already having people say they're unable to access it. So, yeah, I'm just going to mute the music. I have no way to control volume on this thing, so. Wait,
Is it happening?
did you mute it? Yeah, I did. Well, don't mute it. Just put it at like 10% or something so it can't get any quieter than that.
This is as far as it goes.
Is what?
That's as far as it goes.
Oh, wow. Like when they do live stuff on YouTube, you can like turn it down. Yeah, people are already super chatting saying they can't get in. You can see on the screen, if you want to pull this up, it's crashing.
It goes back and forth from
Yeah.
the listening to the details
Look at
not
this.
available.
So I got in like literally, look at, holy crap.
Whoa,
4.3 million already. And it's not working.
Yeah, you think you would have learned from the DeSantis interview and how much of a disaster that was? Maybe they'd prepare for this one.
I still
think
have
it's even
high
bigger than
hopes.
they expected.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, almost, 2 years ago? Almost
2 years
3 at this
ago,
point. So I can understand where, you know, if you are the Trump campaign and the Musk team saying, you know, hey, things are better. We've worked out some of the issues. Spaces are such a regular part of activity on X at this point. I mean, we have Josie, the redheaded libertarian, who does stuff with Timcast there. Maybe things are just better, but it makes me nervous.
Well, Elon invited him to do this interview.
Yeah.
Right? Then I would think that he would have it, set.
Yeah, Elon's in the space, it looks like, but it is not going. I don't know what that little dot means.
Maybe this is one of Elon's son's bands, and they're just
I was going to say,
playing it
whoever made
out
this
so we can
music
get
is
this.
going to be pumped.
I feel like it's the same 30 seconds on loop.
No, there's some percussion that comes in.
Oh, okay. I'm so glad we
now
have a
there's
music
no
consultant
percussion.
here. Do you use X's for any of your work? Or
Yes, we
X
do.
Spaces?
Yeah, actually, we had a grassroots think tank a couple weeks ago with talking about the GOP platform, and we had input from the grassroots. It was over 5,000 viewers. Roger Stone joined the space and everything.
He's cool.
A lot of people are saying
That's
they
very
couldn't
successful.
they couldn't get in, and well, that's good. So we're going to be. I'll just mute it for a second. I mean, we're planning on doing light commentary on this, and based on what they talk about. But I suppose that works out for a lot of people who are actually unable to access it, and you want to hear it. So, we can re-amplify that. But it's late. X is waiting music, not Trump's. Oh, really?
Oh. Well.
But it says
That explains
it says
it.
Trump. No, I don't think so. It says Trump speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like at his rallies when he comes out to, proud to be an American, or like some of these other songs. Like Trump does have sort of a musical genre that I now associate with him. I don't know if that's been any of y'all's experience.
And always get
Yeah.
what you want.
Get a patriotic theme.
We do have this commercial that Trump posted, so while we're waiting, we can talk about the return. He's back. Trump has returned. The Washington Post says the revival of the former president's account on X offers him a bigger audience and also provides a boost for Elon Musk's platform. Now, the funny thing is, I don't know who said it. It might have been one of the Krasensteins. I don't know. They said that, no, who was it? Kyle Kalinske, maybe? Saying that incoming Truth Social lawsuit against Trump. I don't know any Trump supporter who owns DJT stock is going to sue because he went on X. Like, maybe an institutional investor, but I doubt it. Like, I got
What would the law just? You're
Because-
supposed to only use
well,
this one
he's a
platform exclusively.
Fiduciary duty. Yeah.
yeah. He's supposedly he's the owner, and by going on X, he's basically abandoning a company which people invested in. And so the stock. I mean, I'm wondering. I'll check DJT
Is there like
right now.
a time limit on it though? Maybe. Like for this amount of years, I won't use Twitter.
That's what it was supposed to be. I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough too because they have to prove damages. So by Trump going on to X, can they prove that actually damaged Truth Social?
Right. It feels a little
Yeah.
thin to me, to be honest.
anything,
DJT is down 5% today. I don't know if that even means anything or matters.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not huge, but it's not insignificant.
Rumble saw a big jump. What did Rumble do?
I don't know.
Oh, and BuzzFeed jumped a lot.
Shout out to Vivek. I'm sure that was all you.
Yeah, did they like announce a partnership?
He just bought more socks, and somebody's like, hey, "There we go."
That's it, man.
With the thing is, by using a Spaces, and you're an actual lawyer, so tell me if I'm wrong here, but using Spaces, especially when you're invited on by Elon Musk, feels different than just going back to posting regularly on X. I mean, as far as I know, Truth Social doesn't offer this type of,
Yeah, there's a
live
difference
stream
between
feature.
using your account on X versus like you've been invited for an X space.
It's gone. It's not working. I have a feeling they're going to relaunch, and it's going to be just like with Ron DeSantis. You got 110,000 people trying to get in. Its numbers going down. The space is not working, and nobody can get in. I'm seeing libs of TikTok can't get in. Laura Loomer saying she can't get in. Shane Cashman says having trouble logging in.
How long until Trump's like, it's such an exclusive event, people can't
I
get in?
can't imagine they didn't have a contingency.
Glenn Beck is saying it crashed. Spaces are down.
How many views does it have at this point?
They broke it. They broke Twitter.
They have broken.
They broke X.
Maybe this is good because that way he can be like, okay, join me now on Truth Social.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, unlike Trump rallies, you can't say like people are watching from the outside. They can't get in, but they're still watching.
Yeah.
It looks like it hit like 123,000 people, and now the number of people who are in it are leaving. I wouldn't be surprised if they relaunch like what they did with DeSantis. I can't even tell. Like,
Bright purple screen like that is making me think of when Kamala had hers like bright green to like to mimic the Brat cover.
All right. Well,
We should watch his
I wish
ads.
they didn't have the music playing, to be completely honest.
Oh, you and me both, my friend. But I think probably because I just don't like it, and you guys are.
All right. Well, let's. I'll keep an eye on if it. Well, just because with the music playing, it's fine. Okay. Look, Elon Musk just popped in.
Oh.
Is there still no sound? You turn the sound.
He's muted.
Seems
right
like he's muted himself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just muted the tab
There we go.
because if the music wasn't playing, we could leave it running,
Yeah.
jump to any other article, and then come back. So they're late. They're very late, and
If there's a way to mute just the music.
Oh, look at that. Other people are seeing me in the top next to Elon Musk. Look at that. Well, I hope that's the case. That's cool. Right next to Donald Trump. I'm going to tell you guys, everyone is saying that it crashed. That's it. Congratulations. There we go. How about we do this? I'm going to 155,000 people currently in the room.
45,000 comments.
45,000 comments. Can't open. The app does not work. Man, Kyle Kalinski's losing his mind. He's getting so mad about everything. He used to be so much more chill. Yeah, it's crashed. All right, we'll just jump to this story then, and then we'll come back as soon as it pops up. We've got it running in the background. The moment they start speaking, we'll get it. But let's jump ahead. We kind of get the idea on Donald Trump's return. So this is one of the tweets that he posted. Are you better off now than you were when I was president? Our economy is shattered. Our border has been erased. We're a nation in decline. Make the American dream affordable again. Make America safe again. Make America great again. And then this is funny. Brian Krasenstein. Hey, how about that? Here he jumps in, and I don't care to read what he has to say. But of course, he's the reply guy. He's the reply guy. Here's the big news around this. Let's pull this one up. How do you pronounce this guy's name? Thierry Brayton?
Yeah. Thierry is really.
Thierry?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the Commissaire European. And it says he released this letter. as there is a risk of amplification of potentially harmful content in the EU flag. In connection with events with major audiences around the world, I sent this letter to Elon Musk. Who wants to read this? This ridiculous, long-winded, it's like, the only thing I can think is, what's that meme where it's like, I'm sorry this happened to you, or that's great, whichever. You know what I'm talking about?
It's called Too Long Didn't Read.
Right, exactly. Like
TLDR.
TLDR. But he's basically saying that, look at this long-winded garbage. We have a law that says you can't misinform people. That notably means ensuring on one end the freedom of expression, blah, blah, blah. As you know, formal proceedings are already ongoing against acts under the DSA, notably in areas linked to the dissemination of illegal content and the effectiveness of the measures taken to combat disinformation. As the relevant content is accessible to EU users and being amplified also in our jurisdictions, we cannot exclude potential spillovers into the EU. Therefore, we are monitoring for potential risks of the EU, blah, blah. Dude, shut your mouth. Jeez. Look at this long-winded garbage. We get it. Well, let's where are we at? Still just placeholder music. So let me play this. Let me play this for you.
Elon Musk is slated to interview Donald Trump tonight.
Turn that up a little bit, or where are we at?
I don't know if the president is going to tune in. Feel free to say if he is or not. But I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's a America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that, or stopping the spread of that, or sort of intervening in that? Some of that was about campaign misinformation, but it's a wider thing, right?
Yeah, no, and you've heard us talk about this many times from here, about the responsibilities that social media platforms have when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. Don't have anything to read out from here about specific ways that we're working on it, but we believe that they have the responsibility. These are private companies, so we're also mindful of that too.
Yeah, blah blah. We get it. Are we live yet? Nope. I mean, now they're 12 minutes late. I mean, that's just a little bit too much, I got to tell you. But Trump's always late for rallies. This is a bit different. This is scheduled programming. But there you go. Outside of the EU letter, you've got journalists basically saying that what Elon is doing is basically wrong. And in this article from The Guardian, as an ex-Twitter boss, I have a way to grab Elon Musk's attention. If he keeps stirring unrest, get an arrest warrant. It cannot be right that Musk can sow discord without personal risk. He's a jet setter. Perhaps fear of unexpected detention will concentrate his mind. Well,
they made the Ministry of Truth. It didn't last too long.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of that.
I mean, it's obvious that there is a bias in the way they're targeting Elon Musk. They don't say this to other news broadcasters. They don't say this to other people. They say it to conservative leaning or people who are sympathetic to conservative causes in the in the EU and in America. And I think this is something that people are going to get really sick of. For me, it's the EU has sort of always been a monster. The fact that they have decided that they are a coalition government, they get to tell each country how to live. And in this case, they get to tell private businesses that aren't even based in their country, we're going to monitor you and tell you how to operate because theoretically a third of the users on X are based in Europe. This seems to the beginning of the dystopian end to me, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
Right. Yeah. As a lawyer, to hear that journalist ask what's the roles of the White House in this disinformation, quote unquote, is really really appalling, because the government should have no say in what's true or not as far as speech is concerned. We did see the Biden administration having a say in that they were feeding Twitter executives what they should or shouldn't be deleting or censoring, but really that the government should have no role whatsoever in curtailing speech, whether they agree with it or not. Mm-hmm. That's what they're trying to do here, though, is if it's speech that they disagree with, they don't like, well, then the government should step in and stop it. But if it's speech we like, even if others don't like it, it's okay because we like it.
Right. If you're not saying the lines that we think are okay. And I think especially, so one of the things is the European Union Commissioner had referenced the recent violence in the United Kingdom, right? But we know that a lot of the mainstream media reporting on that is heavily biased, right? Anyone who is protesting the presence of illegal immigrants within the UK. You know, they're racist, and anybody who's against it is anti-racist. So wait, actually, there's a lot more complexity and nuance to that situation. And so much of what this is saying is like, we have decided on a narrative, and anyone who questions our narrative is a threat to us, and therefore we will do anything we can to restrict your speech.
Well, yeah, in the EU, it's basically if you're against the EU and what they want, you're anti-democracy. If you agree with them, then you're pro-democracy, and you must crush the anti-democracy folks. And so if there's a Muslim gang or riot, then we don't really report on that. That's okay. But if there's a quote-unquote far-right protest who's peaceful and they're just saying, hey, we don't really like what's going on, you can crush them and tell the police to stay out of it because they're anti-democracy. And so to see the EU send this letter, a bunch of a word salad essentially,
Right.
is a big joke. I don't
And it's to control American politics, right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk is talking to Donald Trump, who is running for re-election in America. No one is asking Europe to be a part of this. European listeners are not required to be a part of this space. To then come in and say, like, well, we're going to pay attention and restrict this because we've decided you might upset people that we are trying to brainwash. Like, be more transparent. You
Right.
know?
Last I recall, we fought a war so that we don't have to care what Europe thinks about what we do.
It's pretty brutal. 15 minutes in, and I mean, I don't know if they're waiting for people because people are trying to get in and can't. There's apparently 200,000+ people currently watching live in this X space. Not to mention, there's a couple live streams on YouTube with 30 to 40K. We've got 55K. This may be one of the biggest live audiences for a political speech if they're able to get it off the ground. And not to mention, I'm assuming on Rumble too, they've got this rolling on a bunch of channels. So we're just waiting as the thing glitches out.
Do we know what they're going to talk about? Have they been specific in what their topics are?
I don't think so.
Or is does the EU letter come out as a, like, stay away from certain things, don't talk about migration or anything we could deem hate speech? Like, is this a warning shot to say stay away from certain topics we don't like?
That seems like
So it looks like what's happening is they're trying to add server space. I don't know if this is correct, but people are noticing that it's hitting a wall at like 120 and then starting to go down and then jumping up to 200. And so this may be that they're putting a hold on it for the time being as they try to expand server space to be able to get more and more people in. I think they need to they just need to go because we're 17 minutes in and this is getting a bit brutal. A bit brutal.
So they haven't started yet. It's
Nope.
not going somewhere and then we're just not seeing it.
No, I mean, this is it. This music
I'm
is
going to
it.
place a bet. I'm going to say 8:30 is when they'll actually start.
I wouldn't be surprised if part of their plan all along was to have a certain amount of, delay time while the room fills up. I mean, I'm sure any major candidate would want to make a good entrance, right? You don't want to enter a room and be the first one there. On the other hand, how late are they planning to go? And if it's already crashing right now, once you start, and I don't know anything about the technology behind this, but does that mean that at any point during the conversation we could get these kind of drops and delays? Because that would, to me, really fragment the conversation.
Indeed.
I'm going to continue to vamp until this
We have no
happens.
details.
What do you want them to talk about tonight?
Alex Jones coverage crashed with 330 viewers. Yeah, but you got to understand about X. The X live streams don't track concurrent viewers. So there's a huge difference. When you see, like, right now we've got about 60K, 59,000 some odd. On X, you'll see, this is what we did a multi-stream of the debate, and it said we had 750,000, and people were actually like, wow, look at it. No. That the peak concurrence was actually around 20 some odd thousand. YouTube was like, I don't know, it was like 80 or 90 or something. So, some people think Elon did that intentionally. Change the live viewer count from concurrent viewerships to total viewership.
So it looks higher.
So it looks like it's much, much bigger, relative, or he wanted a real-time view count. You can make whatever inference you want. But, yeah, so 19 million views already, huh? 19 million? Let's,
Whoever wrote that song must be so thrilled right now.
yeah,
This is their big
20.2 million views, and only a couple 100,000 people are currently in. And it looks like, yeah, Alex Jones, 341,000 total views on his live stream.
Carter, what kind of music would you have written for a prequel to a Donald Trump Elon Musk interview? Because this doesn't feel like Donald Trump to me. Like, I get that it's kind of a fun
No,
elevator.
it does feel like X, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
X meets Trump, maybe.
But doesn't feel like meets Trump to me. It just feels like sort of tech world
Right.
to me.
Trump would need like a guitar, maybe some kind of country theme to it. I think.
A band.
Well, he loves
Yeah,
playing
band.
"Proud to be an American," and he loves playing
Yeah.
"Tiny Dancer."
Yeah.
Like something from
No,
the
he
like
does.
90s or
YMCA, I
80s,
guess.
you know?
When
like that tone.
when he got in the Cybertruck with Aiden Ross, he picked "California Dreamin'," and I wholly endorse that selection. That is a great song.
It is
Very
amazing
good.
how much of his campaign, music is actually, I think, a big subtle part of his campaign. There is a type of playlist you're expecting Trump to come out with, or maybe I'm just thinking that because Obama just released his summer playlist and I thought it was terrible.
There's one song I can.
All right, so we got a breaking update here. Elon Musk has tweeted, for those that are just tuning in, we are currently waiting for the live interview with Donald Trump and Elon to begin. Elon Musk tweets, there appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X, working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will proceed with a smaller number of live listeners and post the conversation later. Wow. Can't say I'm surprised. The EU drafted a letter threatening Elon Musk. Others have called for his arrest over this. They do not want this interview to happen. So it seems extremely likely that there is a massive DDoS is distributed denial of service attack. It's where they flood the website with requests. It's the easiest way to explain it. Actually, let me see if I can find a picture here to find an image to help you understand what we're currently looking at. Yes, I have it. I have an image here to help you explain what a DDoS is. And it's basically, the way you want to visualize it is this. This is the door to Twitter, and all of these oversized novelty germs are trying to get in at the same time, and they can't. That is effectively what a distributed denial of service attack is. Shout out to Richie Jackson if he's watching, as a Simpsons reference. So that's basically what's going on right now, and that's why we're stuck. I'm assuming, I think you are right, Mark. I bet 9 minutes they just say, let's roll the interview with what we have. And then they're going to say not that many people actually listen to Donald Trump and the live interview. Mm-hmm. And this is a way to diminish the reach and the impact of what may be one of the biggest interview moments ever.
Definitely one of the most highly anticipated. I think people really want to see direct conversations between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And, tomorrow you will see reports that this is a sign that Elon Musk is has bad leadership and X, Twitter, whatever, is falling apart under him. When really, I don't think that's true. This is going, I hate to say, if any kind of technological issues or glitches in this interview are actually going to be both a comment on Trump's campaign, but also a referendum on Elon Musk for the mainstream media.
But it also shows that the globalists are terrified to hear this interview in the first place. If it was a CNN interview, NBC, MSLSD, they wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't complain. In fact, they would be cheering it on. They'd say, yeah, we want to hear this. We want to hear Trump sticking to him. But this, Elon Musk, who's endorsed President Trump after the assassination attempt, interviewing President Trump, so two men of influence and power who support Christianity and the Western culture, being interviewed, that you can't have that.
Right,
we're going to attack it.
Uncontrolled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The other question, I gotta lean towards distributed denial of service attack. Some people are saying that this is just, liberals are saying Elon was unprepared. It's not working because X can't handle it because Elon isn't good at this. Kyle Kalinske said he's a moron or something like that, and he doesn't know what he's doing. But considering that the EU made this threat, you have to believe that there's powerful interests in various countries who are like, shut it down. Yeah. Elon's not going to be able to compete with that. What I think they're trying to do with this event, and Donald Trump, of course, Team Trump has called for a big fundraiser. I think they want to rival what they saw with white dudes for Kamala. And what was the other one? Was it women for Kamala or whatever?
Yeah, they had women's for Kamala. I think they even had specifically
they ended up
women of color for Kamala.
What did they end up raising? Like 10 million or some big number?
I think in total they're saying they've raised one of them raised over 50 million. I think 50 million
on one stream.
I'll double check right now.
I don't think so. Because I think they were like 9 or something.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They kept saying that this was like they had 180,000 people join. And I'm like, right, they're talking about concurrent viewership. That's not that's just any big live stream. Donald Trump's already well larger than that. And with over 20 million views, substantially larger than that. So let's see if they can get to work. But in the meantime, I am willing to bet there are powerful interests aligned with Democrats and other foreign actors that are doing this intentionally to stop Donald Trump. When you look at, let's just call it certain nonprofit organizations back in 2016 that were really interested and maybe even connected to the person running for president, the Democrat. A lot of money stopped getting donated to those nonprofits once Donald Trump won. So there's probably a lot of financial interests that are tied up in this. Don't know, don't care. If Trump wins, they lose money. And so what does that mean? They're going to spend money to disrupt anything that might benefit Donald Trump. So I'm not surprised that we're at this point right now.
No, I think people really are fearful of Donald Trump in what I think is a deeply irrational way. But this is the reality of almost a decade of fear mongering about Donald Trump. When did he first announce his campaign? In 2015, and ever since then, it's like no matter what he does, it is the end of all times, even if it's good. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this later, but
we got another update from Elon. He says we tested the system with 8 million concurrent listeners earlier today. Okay. Wow. So the site is being attacked. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say, for those that are watching live right now, witnessing history. Man, guys, I want to tell you something. This is so crazy. It's like, here we are. We are in it. When you read the history books and you learned of the presidential debates in the, early 1900s and the war, it felt no different to them than it feels to us right now. We don't look at the war in Ukraine and with Iran and Israel as profound or impactful as, say, World War II and things like that. But it is all the same. I mean, perhaps you might argue, no, World War II was way bigger. Well, where they were at the time, when they were doing radio broadcasts and writing stories for, Life magazine, perhaps, which we have all the copies of. It's interesting to read those. When they didn't know about D-Day, when they didn't know the U.S. would get involved in World War II, when they didn't know that Hitler was going to expand or that there was going to be the Blitz and things like this, they were sitting there having these conversations. What you are listening to right now is exactly that moment that people will write about. And here we are, 3 months out from the election. Elon Musk, the wealthiest guy on the planet, with one of the biggest social media platforms, talking to the front runner, and the website is currently under a cyber attack to shut down the conversation. Welcome to history, ladies and gentlemen. What more could I say to that? Just that music. This music will be in the historical record.
I know.
There's going to be some 10-year-old kids 200 years from now, and the teacher is going to be like, now here's a trivia question for bonus points. Who can name the billionaire tech CEO who hosted the failed interview with frontrunner Donald Trump in the 2024 election just before the Second Civil War started? I had to add that last part.
I think that there's going to be journalists who hear this music and are automatically sent back to this moment in time as they grip their laptops and are like, please, I'm just trying to get a story out.
PTSD.
Well, when they mention the tech billionaire, they're also going to say, who also is a Nazi sympathizer, by the way.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years from now, and I do think, without being dramatic, this election will really say what course some of history is going to go in. But I think some of the way that at least some progressive historians will look back on this moment is like, yes, good job to those DDoS attackers who really prevented the worst moment in history. They'll think that they have done good because there is such a fear around having these two people talk. Again, to me, this is irrational, and it's the production of fear mongering that's lasted over the last 8 years. But there are people who feel like there is justification in trying to prevent Trump from reaching a mass audience.
Yeah, Elon says they tested it to 8 million concurrents, and I believe him. Because after what happened with Ron DeSantis, and Elon is running a business, he's not going to let this happen again. But some people are asking if he can just do a live stream and then broadcast that to X, with what other people are doing. But he's trying to make it a space.
Right.
I wonder what server is getting hit that's shutting down spaces. That vulnerability, man. I don't know what they could have done to mitigate.
If this is a bait and switch, where it's like, we're going to be doing this live on Rumble.
No, but that would. So what happens with Ron DeSantis is they launch that massive campaign event. This is it. Crashes. So they relaunch it. Everyone's gone.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very unimpactful. Threw everybody for a loop. And if I have to imagine that Elon prepared for this. So I don't know what to tell. Elon is trying to make it a space. They must be hitting him somewhere where he didn't expect it. I don't know what you can do. We can sit here and listen to this music.
We have 93,000 comments now.
That's crazy, right? 93,380 comments so far, only making the DDoS worse, probably.
Right. Well, it's interesting, too, because people are probably refreshing and refreshing, trying to find this, hoping that in 1 second it'll be, one refresh away from being live.
Man.
Yeah, they don't want to be the one to miss it. Or if Elon Musk, he said we're going to maybe do it to a limited number of live listeners, they're hoping that they get to be in.
Well, if this isn't proof enough
Whoa, my app is freaking out.
We're in a political war. I don't know what would convince conservatives of that. I mean, assassination attempt, and now you can't even have an interview with Elon Musk. The biggest free speech war in the tech industry. We are obviously in a political war, and conservatives start acting like it instead of saying things like, no, the left means, well, they just disagree with us. No, they actually hate you and they want to destroy you and censor you.
It's also interesting that you get this immediate contrast between the technology that conservatives and sort of this new emerging right-wing party in America is choosing to use versus the Democrats and Kamala Harris.
Elon Musk has announced they will be proceeding at 8:30 Eastern, which is any moment. And a lot of people are tweeting that we're able to actually just to get in. So it's 8:30 now. I don't know how much more of the music is.
30 minutes of it.
So what is this?
Oh, is that?
I'm going to hear this in my nightmares from now on, this music. I don't know why. I'm just really not into it. But just to finish my point, Kamala Harris has raised a lot of money by holding Zoom calls. And at the beginning of COVID, Zoom was really criticized because it has ties to foreign governments or security concerns. To China, Serge is mouthing at me.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting that she's able to successfully use this platform that actually is somewhat controversial, although sewn into the fabric of a lot of people's daily online and business lives. Whereas Trump is trying to use something that is based in America, and he's being
holy crap, ladies and gentlemen. There's 454,000 people in this space right now. On X, 559,000 people now live in the X space. Holy crap. This is like, I don't know, man. Maybe the least amount of news we've discussed on a show in a long time. 97,000 comments, 580,000, but you are witnessing internet history right now with Donald Trump, X Spaces. They said they're going to be 8:30. Now they're still late, but it looks like they solved some of the problem. And now the number's up to 580,000 people actively listening on this space. Outside of the 75K we've got on YouTube, 614,000 now actively in the space.
Hope the music's public domain.
Looks like it's working. On my app, I was able to easily get in. You got in? Here we go, baby. 650,000 now it says on the app.
Let's go. 100,000 comments.
100,000 comments, man.
What's the record for spaces so far? Does anyone know?
No.
I'm pretty sure this is it. So they're at
prior to this, like what was the largest space?
685K is what it says on my app right now for active listeners. They're going to hit over 1 million people. Wow.
Tested for 8 million.
Also in.
Tested for 8 million. What if they get more than 2 million? The current number is 710,000 concurrent listeners right now. Wow, dude. And we're just sitting here listening to this weird music. 710,000. All right, let's go. What's next? Currently up to 738,000 viewers.
They add an extra beat to the music, so I think that means it's progressing along.
Right.
Now, they said 8:30. It's 8:33, guys. Guys, we don't got all day. Now, we'll wait. We wait for Trump and Elon Musk any day. Especially considering a DDoS attack.
Ain't nothing wrong. They're just sitting there like...
On the app, 7:59. Let's crack 1 million, boys. Let's go.
Maybe that's what they're waiting for. They're like, we'll give it another minute, see if we get to 1 million.
I mean, Trump kind of built like the suspense by not being on X for 2 years.
Yeah, dude.
So it's like...
Oh, what was that? Loop. Yeah. It's Trump's triumphant return to X. History in the making.
Now, do y'all think that Trump will use X moving forward to post? Think so?
He has to.
I don't. I think he's gonna, hold out. We might get a couple more
780K.
posts more frequently, but I don't. I honestly feel like he is unlikely to ever return to it the way he did before.
I think big posts maybe, but not regular.
Like we got a campaign video today. We might get more of that. He might give 1 or 2 comments here or there if something big happens. But, for the most part, I think he'll stay on Truth Social.
I think he'll be on X because he has to.
Well, yeah.
We say this, but, he hasn't had to so far.
Yes, he has.
Well, he'll be on there. I don't know.
When he did that press conference, when he did that press conference, and he was like, Kamala's not smart enough to do an interview, and she's doing these huge rallies, and her polls are going up, and the only response from Trump supporters is, "It's all fake. Don't listen to it." I'm like, the Trump campaign's certainly taking it seriously with this press conference, and there's a reason why they're doing this interview now. Trump's realizing he's got to pull back the press cycle. He's got to be on X, but he's got a certain amount of nukes in his arsenal. This was the biggest weapon he had. The return to X right before they were waiting for the right moment to make it big.
807,000.
Are we here? 809 on the Twitter app, it says.
But I stand by, he may post more campaign stuff. We might get press releases that come out on X. But the way Trump was on X when it was Twitter, and sort of the casual access, I just don't see him ever coming back to it the same way.
If he did.
Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But
I do agree with you there, because I don't know if Trump understands that when he posted the Coca-Cola company is mad at me, that's okay, I'll keep drinking that garbage anyway. That's what people loved. He's tried posting some memes, and some of the memes they've posted have not been that good. And so I think they need to understand it was those tweets from Trump 12 years ago. Where what was it? What was the other one that he had? I've never seen a thin person drink Diet Coke. Like that's
he's
what
like,
we
I'm
want.
gonna keep drinking that garbage.
Yeah. Well, that was the other one. All right, so they turned the music off.
Thank goodness.
And we're currently at, let's see, on the Twitter app, we've got 854,000 concurrent listeners. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. Let's see. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. We're waiting. Everybody's waiting. All right, the number's gone up. Trump has muted the music. At any moment now, they're going to start talking. 868,000.
Oh, yeah, I don't see Elon Musk in there.
I mean, now that it's big and it's working, he better not leave. Charlie Kirk says the music has stopped.
Thank goodness. Sorry,
the DDoS was complete.
In Europe, the commissioners who are running censorship are going like, make it stop.
No, it's like semi-techno dance music, right? They're probably all like feeling relaxed. They're like, maybe this isn't as bad as we think it's going to be.
It's lo-fi. Maybe they're lighting up a joint.
They want 1 million. They want 1 million. They got 884,000 right now. I think they want 1 million in there. They want to be able to say they launched to 1 million concurrent listeners for the biggest political speech ever.
Are Trump and Musk together? Like, are they... I know they're going to appear in the space together, but are we going to hear both their voices through Trump's profile?
I bet they are, and that's why...
Because that's why might have been why Elon didn't have to stay in it.
894,000.
Because in that way, you get the sense that you really are getting an insight into a private conversation between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, which I think that would be really impactful.
So what's interesting, too, is sure, we can say that right now, checking again, 903,000 listeners concurrent in the space. But don't forget, we've got 78K right now watching live on YouTube, waiting for this to kick on, who are going to be listening as well. So that number is probably well over 1 million with all the other live streams combined. This is over 1 million so far to hear Donald Trump speak. And we are probably only 2 minutes away from this number cracking 1 million. It's currently at 912,000. I think they're going to wait for 1 million. I think Donald Trump was like, I want 1 million people.
I think it'll happen at 8:55.
8:55?
Yeah.
Oof. I got to tell you, for anybody trying to listen to this on iTunes and Spotify later, they're going to be like, fast forward. What happened next? But that's the thing about live streams, man. We are currently in the historical moment. So 919,000 listeners right now. There's something interesting about live that you can't get on a podcast or a recording. So when I used to go on the ground and film these big protest events, it's nothing's really happening. What's really going on? But you never know. At a moment's notice, history could happen. And that's the big difference here as we're sitting here absorbing the gradual increase. We are now at 930,000 concurrent listeners. And you look, I'll say that right now.
Elon Musk is back.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's back.
he is.
We got 80,200 concurrent views on the YouTube alone.
Trump is muted.
That's it. That's over 1 million with just this show and Elon Musk. congratulations to everybody listening for being a part of history.
What you said made me think of Alad when he was here, because he's our on-the-ground reporter for
942
Timcast News, and he had been on the ground at the Trump rally, and he said, I've covered 1 million of them, and it seemed totally standard. And so I saw that Joe Biden was about to speak in Pittsburgh, so I left to go there because I thought I would see protesters, which means he just narrowly missed the assassination attempt. I mean,
948.
This is the challenging call I think a lot of people who cover live events have to make.
They're at 950 right now. I'm checking the X app. It's different from what we see on the screen because the lag on the browser. But we are almost to 1 million concurrent listeners, 952,000, ladies and gentlemen, on X, waiting for Donald Trump to speak. He's got 1 million people at a Trump rally right now with Elon Musk. This is nuts.
And they do say, I reference this all the time, but this year was described as the election was being held on a virtual battlefield. So having 1 million people online is pretty wild.
Well, I heard Kamala Harris had millions at her last rally, so this is getting pretty close, but not quite. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard she's really smart, and we're all going to get a great platform one of these days. Except
961.
Except for the stuff she's borrowing from Trump.
Which is very popular. She'll probably get over 81 million votes. Maybe 90 million.
I want to see where the Elon Musk said is 830. They're waiting for 1 million, aren't they?
That's what I feel like they're doing at this point.
They're waiting
My
for 1 million.
prediction was wrong.
That's okay. I mean, he did give us an update at one point.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of.
They said they were going to do it.
960K. It's been at 960K for about a minute.
I can't even see a number anymore on my app.
961K. We're seeing now on the website here. Mine went.
Nice.
My app just went down to 959. So this might be the upper limit. They need to start speaking. Otherwise, people are going to start leaving. It's 841.
It's pretty nice. They call it Donald J. Trump space.
Donald J. Yeah.
Fundraiser space.
Let's see where we're at. Currently, has it gone up? 961. 961 seems relatively stable. On the website, we see 965. So any moment now, they're going to start talking. We hope. I think it's funny. Like Elon's probably watching this with Trump, and they're like, no, make him wait. No, don't talk yet. I'm sure it's actually something substantially more innocuous, like Trump's car was late.
Could be.
No, I think for sure it's the DDOS, and they were like, we can't start because it's not working. Mm-hmm. And so now that now that they've got it, they should be going for it. They should be going for it.
All right. Hello, everyone.
It's on.
My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers, and saturated all of our data lines. Like basically hundreds of gigabits of data were saturated. We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. So this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind. So you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation? So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book. So many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, maybe we could start off with, I mean, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here. Is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
Not pleasant, I have to be honest. I said there was blood. I had
Being
more
shot is
blood.
not
I didn't
much
know
fun.
I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have instances like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation, and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear,
Yeah,
and because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, "Bullets, bullets!" Get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was
yeah.
for those
Split
people that
second.
don't believe in God. I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, I'm a believer now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect
Yeah.
angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart
I
even
mean,
more
maybe it's
now
a
than I
sign.
ever.
Only good thing illegal
Maybe
immigration
that's
is
a
ever good
sign.
for our country.
It's an immigration sign.
You
But
highlighted a serious issue, and
yeah,
at that moment, the,
that's
the, the
right.
the bullet missed hit your ear, but missed your head. I mean,
Well, the amazing thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration. And it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good. And after that, it was going to
yeah,
be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was
yeah,
exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey,
yeah,
who, a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "That's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife. And, you know, she said, "This is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is
Yeah.
a nice thing for
sure,
somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great. And we raised a lot of
yeah,
money for them and for two other gentlemen who are unbelievable people also. They were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them
yeah,
equally. And we thought
yeah,
my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me, and I said, "How many people were killed?" Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous
yeah,
thousands and thousands of people, and there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, "How many people have been killed?" Because I knew there were other shots being fired,
sure,
and they said, "We don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt." And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper,
yeah,
because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was
Yeah.
able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but he was on the
Yeah.
he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium, and he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do
Yeah.
that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been
Sure.
badly hurt and killed. So
Yeah.
I have to
Absolutely.
take my hat off to him because that's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and
Yeah.
he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden, he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to
Sure.
act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. I obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which assume you have
Yeah.
to have in that particular work. But he took
Absolutely.
aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
Yeah.
one bullet. If that didn't happen,
Yeah.
because the shooter had a lot of
seems really
bullets, he had a
comfortable.
lot of
Yeah.
a lot of cartridges up
Sure.
there with him, so could
Well,
have been brave.
that's clearly, he was very competent in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean, there does seem to be, I mean, some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away?
Great incompetence.
That seems
I don't buy it.
crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen.
Well, you know, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people,
Yeah.
because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and
Right.
Trump all over
I
it,
saw the videos.
and she's screaming. And that guy's got a gun. You know, you saw it probably. There's a
No, I
guy
saw
up
the
there with
videos.
a
I
gun.
mean, it's like I guess, I mean, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are, basically people wondering by it, pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That does seem
Yeah,
crazy.
well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up,
Officer.
and
Yeah.
he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun. And he fell down, actually very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly,
Okay.
but he fell down. And he did, from what I understand, he did say there's a guy up there with a gun. And the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf,
Yeah.
sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah. It's not a
No,
tough shot.
it's
Put it
not
into
it's
golf
not a
for
long
him.
shot.
Also,
The
people
Secret
saying it
Service
sounds like he has a lisp.
person had the
Yeah,
long
it's
shot.
It's a
He had
slush, not a lisp.
triple
It's
the
Yeah.
distance.
Compression
actually.
issue, it sounds
Right.
So it was a terrible thing. Look, it's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on, I think, they're screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd
Yeah.
control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of
Yeah.
people get killed with those stampedes. We had
Sure.
more people than you'd have at, some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and Normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down. And it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and and a lot of press too. There was, many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it. So, sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me, they stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I'll tell you, you want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people because it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down, but the Secret Service guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing. And these guys came jumping on top of me, and a young lady, Kate, would jump. They moved so fast, and let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now there was a lack of coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered, and
I mean,
that was the
I think
big
that,
thing.
looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the number one spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick, like, what is the favorite place? So if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. The
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be number one.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better
No,
location. It's like number
no,
one.
that would have been the spot. You know what people think
Yeah.
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast. And maybe that's why he sort of missed. I mean, he
But
he
as you
got
said,
me, but
he
it
would have
could have
hit.
been a much
Yeah.
bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like, there was it was a very near thing.
It was a
So,
miracle. If I hadn't turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would
Well,
not be talking to you.
maybe
Sounds like you got
maybe
dental
from
work
another
done,
realm,
maybe.
perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. We'd be talking from a
so-
different
It
place.
was very generous
But
to the Secret Service.
it was
He's trying to distinct.
it was a very
between, like,
terrible
his
experience.
team versus
The Butler
overarching
Hospital, they did
infrastructure
such a
of
great
Secret
job.
Service.
The doctors were so good. Everybody
Yeah,
was
I
so
think it's
good.
generous,
There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done, I think, over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, "Sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something," right? And
Yeah.
that happens often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it
Yeah.
didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Any reporting on this space
Well,
is going to have to be about
it
the
was
assassination attempt.
your.
Yeah.
I
Which is
think
actually good
your
for
Very good.
conservatives.
actions in the heat of fire, and like what I found admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And
Well,
so
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, "Sir, you were hit in more than the ear." I said, "Nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up." And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people, and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
Yeah.
know that, and they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I
Yeah.
got up because they didn't know was I alive. You really couldn't tell when I stood up before the hand, before the the fist in the air. Uh, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It was a
Well,
terrible thing, but
it was
really nice.
incredibly moving. Yeah. Well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life really was the illegal immigration
Right.
slide. Maybe this
That's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that
It
since
was. It was.
that slide saved
You're
your
right.
life
No,
basically.
the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but I
I
had to
know
be at
that's
that
the
Immigration,
exact
though.
angle.
1.1
I mean
million listeners
that's a
now.
great one. Saved by illegal
You know
immigration.
the incredible
100%.
thing though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the
Yeah.
incredible thing is that the chart I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
Yeah.
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So here
Yeah.
we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end.
That's
And even the
That
crazy.
people
is
that put it
crazy.
up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet
I didn't know
came
that. That's
whizzing
pretty
by, hitting
wild.
my
All the
ear.
staff went to the chart.
So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would
Yeah.
have been a very different story.
Change history
It's
forever.
very much. I say an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm
Sure.
honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted?
Well, I was going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. Great. These are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey killed, and the other two, the families are. I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler. And I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
As you were
prior to
saying,
being so
so,
horribly interrupted.
yeah,
But
yeah. So rudely interrupted by an
yeah,
assassination
so it was,
attempt.
but no, but the chart,
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week, we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous
Yeah,
chart,
yeah,
but that was the lowest
yeah.
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Uh, Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They says the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting
Yeah,
literally records, and I all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes,
sure.
and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but but we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal
Yes,
immigration, because and that's not the same as saying
Wow.
that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately
100%.
represent your position?
I say it
Okay.
very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do,
It's amazing
she's
Iran is
saying
working
she was
towards
strong on the border.
the immigration
We're going to
question
be
because there's all
strong.
this
Well,
reporting that
she doesn't have to
Kamala's
say
trying
it.
to
She could close it up
flip the
right now. They
script
could
on
do things
immigration.
right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. You know, they had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a
true.
policy that they were really going to go after you, and we're really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, you know, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible, and I think it's also hitting them very hard.
No one believes
These
she'd actually
people
do
are
that if she
fake.
were to get
Now
into
they're
office,
also saying they did a good job in the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you know, you hear 12
Yeah.
million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many
Yeah.
coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is
Yeah.
insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia, they're
Yeah.
coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you know, you look at, it's so sad October 7th because it should have never happened.
Yeah.
It's so sad
Sure.
when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective
Yeah.
government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they
Yeah.
won't do anything. It's all talk. She's
No.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
Just a quick fact check.
No,
Biden
I think it is
had a plan to increase
essential
taxes
to
on tips.
have a secure border. I mean,
2023.
you're really not a country unless you have a
Correct.
secure border. And
secure elections, too.
you know, yeah, absolutely secure elections. And so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country. And our service, you know, our essential services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities. As we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well. And speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, I think like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are going to, be great contributors to our society and to our economy,
Right.
and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like you know uh, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're such a target-rich environment. I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah.
So it's insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I
They're
hate
not.
to say it
They
because
put
it's
on
such a
more
downer to
policies
say
than
it. I
Paul
hate to
has in the
say it.
entirety of her
I hate
presidential
it, but
campaign.
1.2 million.
you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're
I
allowing,
think you're
again,
right.
they're
Yeah.
allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers. They're taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're
Yeah.
delivering them into
But
the.
that's what Castro did
Yeah,
that.
well, he
You know,
did on a much smaller scale.
yeah.
You know, it was a much smaller
Yeah.
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. You know, this is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters and started
Sure.
pulling out the knives, and bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in
Who is
jail
very
for
upset
murder
right
and
now,
all sorts of
probably.
things. And they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling
El
them,
Salvador
if you
keeps them
come back,
locked
we're
up.
going to
They
kill
won't send
you.
them out
We're
of
going
the
to give you the
country
death
usually.
penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people. And it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because, you know, now she's trying to say she
Sure.
had nothing to do with it. And she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location, which had nothing to do with where the problem is. You know, she went in and out, I
Right.
guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the problem
Yeah.
is. But she was
Well.
the
Well.
border czar, and the people
Yeah. Yeah.
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't. She wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
Yeah.
what happened. You could shut the border down; he wouldn't
Yeah.
even know the difference. But the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her
Yes.
that, the fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No,
It's
it's
I mean
horrible.
whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And you know, sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, and you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey,
Because I'm Elon Musk.
is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border,
Wide open.
and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly. So
These are
people
people.
can look at
Military
my
aged
video and
men.
say, hey,
Yeah.
these people look friendly. I don't look super friendly. So
These are people that Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And, you know, the caravans are coming in and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing
yeah,
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
yeah.
workers or they don't want to work or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are
Yeah.
really brutal people. And they're coming into our country
Yeah.
at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
All
Yeah,
the
no, no.
we have
opportunity.
20 million people
I
poured
think
in.
is
It's a terrible
Yeah, I
thing.
think frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't
left
have a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. You know, we think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, you know, the four. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To
No,
be clear,
Mexico
it's
less,
just it's just
less
it's
than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York. New York, and I love that place, and what they're doing to
Study
it is
1.2 million
horrible, what they're
voters.
doing to it. And all the courts do is they
yeah,
try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened
Talk
is
about the DOJ
unbelievable. You
lawsuit.
have from Africa,
Yeah.
from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they dropped them. They drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, you know, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South
Well,
America.
just
They're
Earth,
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible.
Well,
So
Elon, we're going to have
that's
just to
yeah.
finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country. What they've done to our country. Think of it, with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
tell you what, Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. Same with other countries. Some
sure.
are at 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it?
Yeah,
And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. And, some people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly, or I did well in the debate. The first night they said, wow, one of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this.
Clearly does not mind.
We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a
it's
different. Look,
yeah.
she hasn't done an
I mean,
interview
He beat Biden in the
since
debate
this
yeah,
whole scam
so badly.
started. And
Biden quit.
say what you want. This was
yeah,
a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice
yeah.
way or we can do it the
No,
hard way.
yeah. No,
They
I mean, they
beat him
just took
too
him out
early, though. He
back
gave
behind the shed
Democrats a
and
chance
basically
to
shot him.
recoup.
Oh, what they did
Biden.
with this guy,
So
and I'm no
yeah,
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
well,
And we wouldn't have had
yeah,
Afghanistan. But we think of it,
well, yeah.
you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have
No,
no
no, you're yeah.
inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah, no, no. I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are, are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do, and do they fear the American president, or is it someone they do not respect and do not fear?
No one
And I
fears
think
Biden.
they
No one
do
respects Kamala.
they do they would they have to rightfully be. I mean, look at that the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like, whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say, I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down. He shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow. I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down. And he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's inconsistent. Certainly, but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing to listeners the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating.
YouTube just created a summary,
and how much that matters to global security. Because
Elon Musk
there's
appears
some real tough characters
nervous,
out there.
stutters, and
they don't
speaks
think
in a
the
low
American
voice.
President is tough.
Meet Kevin had something similar.
I know every one of them.
People are mocking the interview for being boring, and Trump is slurring his speech.
Elon, I know every one of them, and I know him well. I know Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you,
but
people say, "Oh, this is terrible." He said, "I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious, and they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even believe it. They can't believe this happened.
It's not a
all
list
the stuff that
of
you're
a slush.
seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel. They're all waiting for an attack from Iran.
really think it's
Iran
an
would
audio
not be
issue.
attacking, believe me. When I was there,
Yeah, it tends to
say it
happen when he's
with
farther away
respect,
from,
because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran.
And he's
but
got
they
something
knew
attached
not
to the
mess
phone. You can see
around.
in the photo.
Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll pass.
Yeah.
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise.
Sure.
You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil. But they had no money, and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. Getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and, all the different things.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they were. No,
like
they were
absolutely-
epic. Everything.
So
He
called them
said.
tweets.
He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger, and my red button works. And then I called him Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden, I got a call from him, and they said they want to meet. They want to meet me, and we met.
Yeah.
As you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with them great. We were in no danger. But President Obama, thought we were going to end up in a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's got a lot of nuclear stuff too.
Exactly.
He's got plenty of nuclear. He can do plenty of damage. So
yes, I mean it's because people like Kim Jong-un, they respond to strength, not weakness.
Well,
And
he and I had a good relationship. Remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before.
Yep.
I walked onto. I wouldn't say.
was amazing.
Let's bring
That
up
was cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. I always say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden, and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat. The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries now that have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people. And Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story. But if you think about it, Russia's gone, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force.
Yeah. So,
And it's
of course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a man that actually made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
The U.S.
I think you're
rejected
right.
peace offers
I
from
think
Russia.
people underrate the risk of World War III.
1.3
And it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity. And it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And,
we're going to do is
it's-
we're going to build
yeah.
an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it.
Oh my
We're
God!
going to have the
Really?
best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it
US
all in the
Iron Dome?
United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has
That's a
one.
good question.
That is a good
Some
question.
other places
Yeah.
have one
We're
that nobody even
substantially
knows
larger.
about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that
Absolutely,
they can't
sure.
buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen, and it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discuss the border at great length. It's nice to have a
Yeah.
forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on
No,
you.
they could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad
Border and
when you
economy are
think
intertwined.
that somebody that does this
They
for a
are,
living
for sure.
can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah.
And as much as
Yeah.
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening. And we'll end that
Well,
quickly.
I think a lot of
Trump's got a mic next to his mouth.
A lot of people just don't
that some people think are
understand where
compressing.
inflation comes from,
And so it's making that
inflation
weird
comes
slush
from
really
government
annoying,
overspending,
because you
because
can
the
tell
checks
it's
never
not on
bounce
every
when it's written by the government. So if
Right.
the,
consonant, so
if
you
the
know it's
government
not a him problem.
spends far more
They're gonna
than
say it isn't
brings
the-
I know
in,
they are.
The
that
whole thing's
So
going to be
money
slushing
supply.
down.
And if the
Yeah.
money supply
Flush.
increases
Music
faster than the rate of goods
producer
and
reacts.
services,
Well, it's just
that's
tough.
inflation.
Well,
We got a real-time audio engineer in the
if I
room.
was his audio
really,
guy.
we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible?
Elon
Where
sounds
is it
great.
not sensible? And we need to live within our means.
Probably has
We're
a better
currently
audio
adding,
than Trump does.
I think, $1 trillion to the
For this
deficit
type of
Honestly,
thing.
maybe 'cause he's speaking
every
directly into his
roughly
phone,
every 100
not
days.
trying to amp it up.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest.
And it keeps
I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that. Then by the way, we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah.
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have
Yeah,
an
I bought a
electric
Cybertruck.
car,
Trump review
but
of the
these are minor
Cybertruck.
details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has
Sure.
to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah.
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
Yeah.
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of
Google had to
energy
note this
if
in its,
our country will be
annual,
competitive with China,
carbon
because
footprint
that's our
right.
primary
It was up because
competitor
they've
for
been
this
investing in AI.
on the AI. You're
Sure.
going to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
Yeah.
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government spending
Yes.
and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does?
waste is incredible, and nobody
It
negotiates
is.
prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it. Like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're
Wow.
highly sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway,
Services
but
like
it's
gripping the desk
5.7.
right now.
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items. And
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion.
numbers are
And yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter.
Elon
I
Musk's
look at
just
what
trying
you
to
do.
get a
You walk
job
in,
here.
you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on strike. I
Like,
won't
so it's
mention
like-
the
it's
name
like a
of the
phone
company,
call
but
between
they
the
go
two.
on
I know.
strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to
Yeah, by
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I
1.3 million.
chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations, this is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. You know, the new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big, you
Malay's
know,
awesome.
he's great, and
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan. You know that he ran on MAGA, and he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought everything, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. You know, they had like
Yes, exactly.
2,000%. And they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal.
Venezuela
But
levels.
we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. We have, I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah.
effectively,
Daffy
and
Duck is
having
trending on Twitter,
just
on X.
like so many departments you can't even name them all. And what Milei is doing is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's having putting in regulations that make sense, and we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement
That's
in
right.
prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Um,
Right.
in the like in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Uh, Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and
Are we in
smarts.
the middle of a
I
job
want to close
interview?
up Department of Education, move education back to the states,
Recruiting call.
where
Yeah.
where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California.
Newscom.
He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the
Yeah.
50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15
Yeah.
of them, or 20 of them will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of
Yeah.
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well-run.
Sure.
And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of, the land or the sun and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But,
Yeah.
but if you think about it,
Yeah.
you'll have some
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than
Yeah.
half what it is in Washington. And
Yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah.
students in these, faraway states. And it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will naturally
right.
move to states where it's better.
Well, like California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
Yeah.
some of these
Confirmed.
places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do it good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that
Yeah.
the cost, you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little
Yeah.
monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a
Yeah.
little English, right?
Imagine that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. No, but I mean, to what some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul
It's
sales.
actually
It's just
amazing.
people moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job.
Yep.
But, I mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? Their taxes are among the highest
Yeah.
taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not
Well,
a good
I think there's.
situation.
I mean, I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're
Just
not getting
never
bailed
see
out by the
clips like
federal
this
government.
from a
Right.
Kamala
Well,
Harris rally.
You're
That's
gonna
the only
have
thing that's going to
that.
get them to change.
You
It's so
remember the
different
area
hearing
in
this discussion
California
of
where
like
they had that,
how to
where
make
I
America
guess,
better and these
somebody had
topics. They're not
sticky
even
fingers
talking.
and
I mean,
stole
they've
a
mentioned her
lot
a
of
couple
money.
times, but the focus
And,
really is on like what are the problems, how
they
can we
went
get solutions,
into
as opposed
a
to the other
form of
side, which is very
chapter,
much like character
and it was
attacks.
very nasty
Yeah.
for a period of
Solutions that
time.
the
But now it's
anti-Trump
probably the most
candidates didn't care
popular
about
place in
policy.
all of California. So at
I
some
think they say
point,
sanitized
something like that may have
very well
to happen.
prepared.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of
Yep.
these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money,
Yeah.
and for people that are working day to day, it's just a form of taxation. And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and
Yeah.
that's a really big
Well,
deal.
the people that got hurt worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years
Sure.
ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at
Yeah,
it's sticker
I
shock.
think
They call it
yeah.
sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living
Right.
standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason. But unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had
That's right.
anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think there's an opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation. And if
Well, Elon,
if those two things, yeah, those are the big deals.
we set a record. We did more deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for everyone we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. and we did
Yeah.
radical cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. You know, we had the best economy ever, maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, you know, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But if had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I
China
always
virus.
said it, and it turned out to be right. But had that not
Yeah.
had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt.
About it.
We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle-income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, you know, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, you know, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. You know, we got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, you know, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, you know, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for, you know, almost 3 years. We had the great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business
Your friends being
were
Silicon Valley
during the
guys.
Trump years, and also said that African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best. Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now.
Well, Trump was
which is
forced
killing our country.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, and absolutely.
wanted
I
to
mean, I
block
should
it.
probably say something about, like, you know, maybe my views on, you know, climate change
Yeah.
and oil and gas, because I mean, I think it's probably different from what most people would
Stream
assume.
count has now declined to 1.2 million.
Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this
we're over
regard,
an
which
hour in
is
at this point.
that I
Yeah, our
don't think we
concurrent
should
views are down
vilify
about
the oil and
5,000
gas
at the moment.
industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would collapse. So it's, you know, I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry. And I, you know, the world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other countries. And it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like, we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there for. It's not infinite. And there is some risk. I think it's not. The risk is not as high as
We're not even
you know,
close to running
a lot
out.
of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is, like, we still have quite a bit of time But so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to like stop farmers from farming, or prevent people from having steaks or
Right.
basic stuff like that. Like you can leave the farmers alone.
I agree.
In
How
my opinion.
crazy is that? Where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is
Yeah,
a
that's
little
silly.
crazy. But
3 million.
it's
Oh, yeah, it's back up
largely
to
taken
1.3.
its lead from us. I just say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to. But I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove to get rid of it. He ended
Yeah.
it. His secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure,
Yeah.
really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that
I mean,
time,
my
something will
estimate.
come around that will be
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my estimate would be, a little more aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. But I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3
Right.
to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the
Hmm.
CO2, and I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm, because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's that's actually, you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to look at. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over, and like, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years from now, we're I don't know, mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. So it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term, I think this can be done. Without people can still have a stake, and they can still drive gasoline
Sure.
cars, and it's okay.
Texas
It's
for
like it's
2
not.
years, and he's
I don't
already
think we should
defending
vilify
steaks
people
in the
for it, but I
cattle
think we should
industry.
just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. And I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way.
Hmm.
And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally,
I don't know about the
I
sexy
mean, the
part.
sexy joke, Model
Might be a
S,
stretch.
Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out there. Um, but I don't know, I like cheesy humor. So
S3
and
XY.
but I'm not, I'm
Most
I'm
expensive
a big
joke
fan of like,
ever.
let's
Yep.
have an inspiring future, and let's work towards a better future, and
wouldn't
we
call a
do so without
Cybertruck a work
demonizing
Right.
people.
I'm okay.
You know.
You know, it's very
I just got one.
interesting. You use the
Not here
word
yet.
global warming, and
Bulletproof.
today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars, and
That's
it
great.
just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure
Self-powered
you'll
vehicle.
be the first. But it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good,
Yeah.
at least in certain areas of the country where you have the world
Sure.
where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me,
Sure.
that's an immediate problem because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number 1, and I mean, we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even
Yeah.
surpassing. But to me, the biggest
Yeah.
problem is not climate change. It's not, and everything's a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear
You
is
mentioned
so
this
great.
before.
Yeah.
And when I talk
Yeah.
about
Nuclear power is underrated. It's
I'll
also
prevent World War
yeah.
III, I will. But the truth is that you have to, because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is
Yeah.
a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is
Absolutely. You're
underrated,
right.
and it's actually people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try and pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining
Right.
operation, and there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that
Maybe they'll have
sort
to
of
change the
have it,
name. The name is it's a rough name. There are some areas
yeah, it's a rough
when
name.
you see what happened in
Good bad
right.
branding. The
We'll have to
branding's rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something. No, it has it has a branding problem. When you see what happened
It does have a branding problem.
when you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where there's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again. You realize it's pretty bad.
No,
But
that's not true.
you're
Well,
right
no,
about it. It's amazing.
it's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's actually it's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove
That
it.
is wildly not true.
And I donated
I was there
a
with
a
Luke
solar
Rutkowski. We
water
were there.
treatment. Yeah, a
Our
solar
fixer
power
died of cancer,
system for a water treatment
thyroid
plant.
cancer.
And
Yeah, but you haven't
because
been
the danger
feeling
is
so
just
well lately, and I'm worried about it.
no, but I mean,
I'm only kidding.
it's
I'm
fine. It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full
That's
cities
true.
again. So
right.
That's
it's
true.
really
Great.
not
That's
something that
That's
Um,
great.
so it's not as scary as people think, basically. But
Yeah.
um, let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we
Elon is
should
wrong.
touch on? Like lawfare. I think
Well,
we need to be concerned about.
what they've done to
Um,
this country.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we just won the big
I mean,
case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. In the big case in Florida, we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use the local DAs, they use the local attorney generals, like Fani, Fani, spelled Fani, Fani, and it's all a big hoax, and it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, the one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before, and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare. It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately I have a platform like you, or, in all fairness, like a conversation like this where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad. And it's ridiculous. I mean,
called Elon
and he's been doing that for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift, and he can't lift it. The whole thing is crazy.
Well, he's clearly not, I mean, he's clearly like, we just don't have a president right now.
You don't have a president, and she's going to be worse than him because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco, and then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states now you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our country is becoming a very dangerous place. And she is a radical left San Francisco liberal. And now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible. But she wants to be more Trump than Trump.
Yeah.
I want a wall.
I think that's,
she wants to release all the prisoners that are in detention. And some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came out today. She doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. In your business, everything you do is obsolete, almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200 miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
yeah, this is simply not true. This is simply not true.
No, and everybody knows it's
simply
not true. It's a disgrace that she can say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse than Bernie Sanders. She is considered more liberal by far than Bernie Sanders.
That's misleading.
She's a radical left lunatic.
It's only because Kamala.
If she's going to be our president. Very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Because Kamala didn't
do
any bipartisan.
And she'll go back to all of the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. Now all of a sudden she's saying, no, I will. I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. You know, like the
Yeah.
Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him. You know, both sides. That was a hard
Yeah.
thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no. Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
I think it's highly
That's
disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're
They'll
doing
still
this,
vote for her, though.
I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. You know, their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's
yeah,
appropriate, swamped. But they
yeah.
swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
So,
they can't defend themselves. You know, they just obliterate the whole
yeah,
place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you,
yeah,
she'll be worse than him because she's a believer
yeah. No,
in
I
being
think you're right.
radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well, her
I think
running
I
mate
like that it took over an
approved,
hour to
signed
get
into
to discussing
legislation,
Kamala.
Yeah, seriously.
I
tampons
like
in
that they
boys'
covered so much
bathrooms.
first.
Okay, now that's all I
that's
have to
weird.
hear. Tampons in
That's
boys'
weird.
bathrooms, and that means she believes
Yeah,
in that too. I mean,
yeah. That's
she
not
picked
okay.
this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person.
He is,
But she
yeah.
is far
Anti-American,
worse,
too.
they say, than Bernie Sanders.
Loves
If we
China.
have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as the president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I mean I'm just stating my opinion. Now you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission, saying, to not have disinformation on during this discussion that we're having, and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries, and what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. You know, we have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. If you add up the European nations that in terms of an economy, it's about the same size. When you say as us, and they're in,
Yeah,
and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. It used to be for the
yeah,
Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is they're in for 70 something million. I think I think even less than that, billion. And we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States was The United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went in and I said, you got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in. And
I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses,
and then we get
even though,
taken advantage of on trade. So think about it.
Well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like, then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense.
Defending
That's
Europe
unfair,
Question.
and
that no
that is
longer
an appropriate thing to address.
Well, when you talk about
so-
cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
Yeah.
Now, they've taken advantage of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it, like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, where am I? Where am I going? So anyway, but no, he wouldn't have this.
That's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and I'm able to get it out because I get treated unfairly.
This is a really big point. You can actually have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
And you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like it's not possible.
That's true.
The only day we could do that was
this is like talking to an NPC. So it's just impossible.
Well, but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong-un. We had dinner. We had everything. And he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, oh, do you think he really...
That's for
Let
sure.
me tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship. And he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man, he said. He's a stupid man. Well,
Elon
at least
came
he
in
speaks
with a
his
set of
mind.
questions he was
But,
planning on
in this
asking,
country, you're not sort of allowed to
he's
say
going
it,
off
but
the
I guess
imagine
you are.
he
You
had,
should be allowed to say it. It's
also
true.
kind of
But we need we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is, the whole concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a
It seems like
picture of
Elon's
her
kind of
on
guiding
Time Magazine
I
today.
think
a certain direction.
She
Trump
looks like the
started in
most
interview
beautiful
mode,
actress ever.
now
to
he's
live.
in I'm on a
It
phone
was a
call mode.
drawing.
Oh, yeah. He's just talking
And
to a buddy right
actually,
now.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She looked Didn't look.
Yeah.
She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful
Camilla.
woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel
Trump needs a call to
excited
action
and
for
inspired
donations.
about the future. They want to feel like the
It's
future
true.
is going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American, and excited about the future.
They want the American
I think
dream back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people, they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. The Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was.
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We
Right.
could build high speed
Yep.
connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. It's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
That's right.
We already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you
Like,
did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
yeah,
You don't even need much
No
structure.
one wants to ride
assuming
public
you're in the right
transportation
area.
because
no,
of
it's
the crime.
it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
So
A lisp
like,
is when you
I think we could do
sa
some
instead of
things
sa.
like
A
China's got
slush is
incredible
when you have a
high speed rail between
when you
its
talk.
cities, but I think it's
People keep
actually
saying lisp.
possible.
It's not what it is.
With tunnels, if with deregulation, with an ability to actually, where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels, then you could have high speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the
Yeah.
world. That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
And
American.
much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there. With crazy people, it's much safer, much better. And it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating, and I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains they call them, I guess. And they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that like I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA for improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's lives. And
I worked very hard on that. We got that down
yeah.
to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people
Trump
can't
got
even
the right to
believe the
try
speed.
passed.
But
That's great.
I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4.
What do you think on a scale of 1 to 10?
And I got some
Trump's
things done very
performance?
quickly, but it's really
8.5.
something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it would be.
It just takes too long, and it's you
gave
end
him
up
a
in the
7.
same with the approval, but it's just
Because people are
it
mad.
takes years instead of
Some people are like, yeah, I agree. Other people are like, what? Only a 7? I'm like, 7 is
that
good.
improves people's
It's
lives.
just
And I
not
think,
like
It's nothing
and-
groundbreaking, but
but
it's nice to hear him. And
I just wanted to
have
hop on this
people talk
point
about
that
policy
there
ahead
has
of
to be an
elections.
active
It's just like being like,
process
they're weird.
for
I don't like that.
It's like a bee.
reducing
He sounds
rules
more
and
like his
regulations, because
2016
otherwise
self.
They just keep building up
not really
every year, and you
influenced
get
by
like hardening of
advisors,
the
just
arteries, and
speaking from the
eventually
gut.
everything's
That's when he
illegal,
does his best.
or takes forever.
And it
And
can only be
then
so
we
impressive over
just
like a
we
podcast,
just
phone
ossify as a
scenario
society.
Yeah.
We just
visual.
I can't imagine what a 10 would look
we
like.
can't make any progress, and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
you know, Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try.
Yep.
This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And as you know, we got it
yeah,
done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for
And the worst part is the
58
slush.
yeah,
years, and it sounds simple, but it wasn't.
I'm pretty
Because
confident it's a DS.
I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it,
positive.
but we got it done.
sure,
Somebody signs, you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done, and we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to Try. Hopefully, you never need it, but if you
yeah,
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People,
right,
if they had money,
that's
they go
great.
to
yeah,
Asia, they go
sure,
to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and
yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they get more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they just couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
Yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy. So you're
absolutely.
right.
And I think so long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons, and like these are the risks, this is the risk, and like you make your own decision.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening.
Sounds
I hope
great.
you don't get
Yeah.
nervous because you got a
That's
lot of
what we need
people
more
listening
of.
to you right now, like 60 million or something.
As
What
it
is
gets
that
later
number?
on and he
It's
gets more
crazy.
relaxed,
It's
he gets
amazing
funnier
how you
and,
can see that right away. How many? What is the
People
number?
are starting to drop off, though. I mean, we're still over 1 million, so.
What is it?
He's counting.
well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow,
terms of people
that's a
Baron
big.
showing
That's
him.
bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70, and I guess over a period of time. Hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be hundreds.
That's
of
what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah, I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it. And they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over, I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant
Yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, 3 of her friends in 3 separate
Crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York. And I said, well, what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just know
they
that
always get away.
nothing's going. And they don't even bother reporting it because there's not. They know that there's not. They're not going to. People are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York.
The
with,
only
with
one that
zero
gets
bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They don't. They prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed up.
Oh, it's terrible.
If violent criminals are being getting off scot
Yep.
free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like what's this and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. The legal system is supposed to be protecting the public
right.
from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going
If
after
the new
their
precedent,
political
I hope it's
opponent.
used against Democrats.
And then you get a judge who's
Well, I hope it's just
a
justice.
strong Democrat, and I'm
Where
being nice
criminal
when I
acts are
say that. In
seen,
many
criminal
cases,
charges are
crooked
brought.
as hell. But you get a
now,
judge,
Merrick
and you
Garland
go
gets
into
away
an
with it,
area
you know what I mean?
where
Right.
a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote.
I think it's
And
malicious
you'll have a
prosecution. There
jury
should be
pool
consequences
with
for that.
Yeah, I agree.
people that
That's a crime.
hate Republicans or hate. It could also be the other way, though,
Of course.
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate Democrats,
Exactly.
and you get into a
Yep.
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
Yep,
losing. New York
absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of
Yes.
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So, all of that stuff is important. But the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
Yeah,
inflation.
I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just want to
I
want to
think,
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about rockets.
well, it's kind of you to say thank you.
Tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So it's it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a lot of things.
I think that's a very real risk.
Yeah, it's a big risk.
It's a very real risk.
Yep.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been I'm not like sometimes they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and batteries, helping with the environment, and I actually I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and. So it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican. I'd call myself, historically a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country, I think a lot of people thought, the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not, and obviously, we're just going to see an even further left administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. She was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. You can Google it. I mean, it's not we're not making this up. That's how she was brought up. So, and we want to have a future that is prosperous. And I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is going to at a fork in the road, and
True.
and I think it will take if the path to, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself, but I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before. And I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left. So this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support Donald Trump for president. And I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America. And now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California. And she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system, just stop the lawfare, and I think that's like, and how are those even right wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%.
1.1 million.
I don't understand, the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you their crime rates all over the world are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country, okay? So we'll go, you and I will go and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela because that's what's happening. Their crime rates coming down and our crime rates going through the roof. And it's so simple. And you haven't seen anything yet because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated. And they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police. We have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal and then the DA doesn't prosecute and that's let the guy out. Well, then why should a police officer risk their life to arrest a violent felon?
Well, even worse, Elon,
if nothing's going to happen.
Even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer and they take away his pension. They take away his job.
I thought when
he loses his family, he loses his house.
To endorse, they were going to wrap up the conversation.
I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling.
Yeah, Trump train's unstoppable.
There was that case where, sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times Square in New York, and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how. I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? What that how can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything. You know, we see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but it's something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things. But I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand-up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and
Yeah.
yet about six
Yeah,
of
yeah.
these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And, you know, they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own country,
Yeah.
if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness. And it's such a sad,
Yeah. It's
it's
just
such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime, by the way,
yeah.
because we don't do anything about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is
Well, we're going to
unacceptable.
change it, and we're going to get them out of the country. You know, when I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries so you couldn't land a plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept
Yeah,
it.
it's
And you know what happened? They all called me,
yeah,
every
yeah,
one of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got them back. We took in so many, you know, the MS-13 is probably
yeah,
the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here. And their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for
yeah,
Obama. They
yeah.
wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just
I
can't
don't know how to end.
have
I know. Trump has to-
whether they're
No
citizens
breaks.
or not citizens.
No,
We
it's
can't
gotta
have
be Elon 'cause
because
he's
they won't
hosting,
prosecute
but-
citizens either. Not just illegals.
So much to
So
talk about.
if it's you can't have violent repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously by definition continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You're one layer deep empathy. You got to say like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for criminals.
Right. And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart people, and they're streetwise people. And they really think that The USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So, it's. I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight.
Yeah.
And I didn't need this. I'm like, I didn't need this. I had a very nice life. I didn't need to go through court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. But I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again, because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're going to stop crime.
Like, the facts speak for themselves.
It's so incredible.
Speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of cities because they know nothing is going to happen. That's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values
Elon
I'm
hyped
just
up.
to people out there. Like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation, and so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting,
Elon is trying to wrap it up.
Sort of moonshot projects that
You just got to say
people
thanks,
can
man.
get fired up about. And
That's what Trump
the
is
future
waiting
I'm
for.
looking for. And
Trump's the subject who's used to the interviewer saying, "It's been great having you. Thank you. Have a nice day."
I'm not against. I'm not like. I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now. And but I do think we want to move, at a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think
Down to 1 million now, but
and so I mean that's why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country.
Can't end.
We're going to be giving tremendous
say in
incentives. We
closing,
want
like an hour.
companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to
that may
create
be Elon
jobs.
trying to no, keep
Again,
going.
it's about the American dream. You don't hear
I
about
think
the
when Elon
American
was,
dream anymore,
giving
Elon.
his
You don't
summary
hear.
of
You're the
Right.
American
Two
dream in the
doors, he was
truest
like, "And a
sense.
rep," and
But
then
you
it
don't
got
hear about the
distracted by
American
how
dream
interested they
anymore,
are in
and
the
you're going to hear
conversation.
about it. People, they need that incentive to go out and do it,
Trump on
and
your
they're going to
platform if
love
you
their
wanna end the
lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all where they have no money, where they literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're going to do some great things. And I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military. We did so much, but
They've said all this already.
I also learned the best people. I learned the good people,
Very hard to hang up
the
the
smart
phone
people,
when you're
the
on the phone
dumb
with your
people,
best
the
friend,
people that can do
True.
things.
Yep.
You
We're
you
in the
learn.
same room.
When I
Trump's gonna
first
fall
came in,
asleep,
I
and
tell
we're gonna be
people
sitting
I
here
was
in
in Washington,
tell
D.C.
Trump
only
there's, like,
17
golf
times,
emergency
according to the
happening.
fake
He'll
news
hang up
media.
quick.
I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. To me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election. And I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
Me too.
God, me too.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny.
Come on,
Elon, come on.
He's
And,
trying to wrap it up.
And I think we need
Trump
to
is
take the
wrapping up.
right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you got I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
Trump's hanging up on Elon now.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
He said bye, like it was a phone call. All right, and we're out. That is the end of it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of the space. That was pretty. So final thoughts on this as we wrap up. We won't have a members show tonight, obviously, because they went long. And the truth is, I have to go to bed because I wake up for a morning show. But the reason why I gave it a 7, and I think you were saying, Mark, you wouldn't know what a 10 would look like.
Right.
A 10 would be Donald Trump giving like a Gettysburg Address level speech of Elon. 4 years ago in this country, we faced a great threat, and then like giving this speech where Elon would then respond. This was a conversation. It was great. Trump did a pretty good job. He was pretty funny. That's why I say it's a 7. And some people are like, no, it was a 10. It was a 10. I'm like, calm down. A 10, like the RNC speech, I'd give like a 9. Really, really great. But 10 is that moment in history where they say like, wow, a speech was given that day. So you give him a 10. Where do you go from there? You know what I mean? So 7 is like he performed great. It was really interesting to hear what he had to say, and I thought it was good.
Well, I think about it. Say he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, right? And he's speaking for an hour, 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours. It's really tough to say that whole time he was speaking was a 10. I agree. If it was a speech, it's probably a little easier to judge that based on a scale of 1 to 10. But when you have this flowing conversation between two powerful men, it's pretty tough to say your performance was a 10 or even a 9. But I think 8.5 as far as just what he talked about, what he discussed, and the substance of it. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good. I don't know you guys want any final thoughts before we wrap up and I can go to bed?
Yeah, I mean, it lasted as long as it needed to. And it
went longer.
Well, no more, no less. I'll stick with my 9 because I'm not going to retract it because I already made it. But I was thinking about his energy tonight was really just off the charts.
That's true. Fair point. It was, you were saying, like more like 2016. He was a little snootier in the fun way. He was talking about issues quite a bit. Opening with the assassination was really good.
Yeah, I think part of it is, and I said this right before, but it felt like you were listening in on a private phone call between Elon Musk and Trump, and you got to hear them touch on a lot of really interesting points. I'm glad they talked about the attempted assassination. I think one of the big crimes, I guess, but maybe that's a little dramatic, is that, we had this insane, tragic, nearly catastrophic moment happen, and eventually, and like kind of, on a dime, it was able to get washed away. Democrats don't really talk about it anymore. They'll maybe mention the rally, but what happened was tragic, in the way Trump responded to that moment, which Elon highlighted, is a big deal. And so I hope that when journalists are writing about this, in addition to the policies that they now get to talk about, which Kamala Harris gives them no policies to talk about, that they'll also talk about kind of what we went through in July as a country, because it is a big deal. Like I said, I think I rated it an 8, 7.5. It's not that anything was bad. It's just that like nothing super groundbreaking happened. It is cool, though. It is cool to witness this sort of historic 1 million-person rally online.
And now, as we wrap up, the one thing I've been dying to clearly articulate. A lisp is when you talk like this, okay? A lisp is when your S's are in your teeth. A slush is when you're talking like this. That's what you were hearing with Trump. Now, likely, I think you agree, it was like a lot of people were saying clear de-esser compression.
Yeah, I'm almost positive, but
the mic is to his left. And so some kind of compression. Some others are saying that they compress it because of the space on the server and things like that. And Trump was also looking down. You made a good point. In some parts, his S's sounded normal, and some they didn't. And then I'm like, yeah, but the media is going to say it was
I know exactly what they're going to say. I'm bummed about it, but like that's the reality of the situation now.
Yep. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you like it. We'll be back tomorrow, of course. You can become a member by going to timcast.com and clicking Join Us to support the work that we do. They went long. We don't have time for the members-only show tonight, unfortunately, but we will be back tomorrow with our members-only show tonight, where you as members get to call in and talk to us. And you can follow the show at Timcast IRL on Instagram. You can follow me personally on X and Instagram at Timcast. Mark, do you want to shout anything out?
Yes, if you could follow us on Twitter or X at RN Renewal. We also have a website, rnrenewal.org, where we have a lot of tools and resources for the grassroots to use at your local GOP, where you can weed out the establishment, present those resolutions, expose the establishment, the rhinos, make your local GOP more pure, more America first, as the grassroots want. And check us out over there. We appreciate it.
Right on.
Been a bit of a lull music-wise, but I'm putting the finishing touches on a new song this week. Follow at Timcast Songs on YouTube. You can follow me personally at Carter Banks everywhere. And pleasure being here with y'all tonight.
Yeah, it's been great having you both here. I know it's sort of unusual IRL for us because we're mostly listening in, but you both had great points, and it's fun to be witness to these things with all of you. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com, Scanner News. Check us out, and at Timcast News on the internet. If you want to follow me, I'm HannahClaire.b on Instagram. I'm HannahClaireB on Twitter. Thanks for everything you guys do. Have a good night.
We will see you all tomorrow for Timcast IRL, but you can also check out the morning show at 10 a.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastNews. Come watch the show there, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning.